Want to move on to another Bears topic. Kind of touched on it last segment, but we're going to talk about it here again, and I'd love your opinion on this, so please comment. What are the Bears' expectations for 2023? What are some realistic expectations for this team come next year? I've heard people say 6 wins. I've heard people say, Ryan Poles said it's going to be another lower year, another rebuilding type year, and we should give them more time. I call BS on that. I call BS on the whole thing. If the Bears are not contending for a playoff spot next year, it is a complete and utter failure. Complete failure. And I'm not afraid to say that. And you could quote me on this, and you could blow it up and trash me. It doesn't matter. If the Bears are not near or contending or in the playoffs in 2023, Ryan Poles should probably be fired. And you will not convince me otherwise in that opinion. Explain to me how somebody with $120 million in cap space, a big-time QB, as everybody says, in Justin Fields, and the number 1 overall draft pick should be 6-11, 6-12, or 5-12. How is that okay? How should we accept that? How should we say, that's fine? Makes sense, right? This is a golden opportunity for the Bears. This is a generational opportunity, not a golden opportunity, a generational opportunity. When's the last time the Bears had the number 1 overall pick? 1947. 1947. Black and white TV, no TV in the house. That was probably a nickel. It is time for the Bears to win next year. 9-8, 10-7, 8-9. They should be contending. And if you say no, or if somebody tells you 5 or 6 wins, and they're a shill, and they're in this for the Bears, and they're really supporting Ryan Poles, they're not telling you the truth. I've heard people on major radio stations, nationally, locally, say 6 or 7 wins, 5 or 6 wins. It's another rebuilding year. Stop cutting them slack. It's time to produce. It's time to win. Why are we being so patient for somebody who finally has all the right pieces? The whole thing throughout time has been, they've never had the right situation. For quarterbacks, for GMs, for head coaches on this Bears team, everybody rushes to make an excuse for people. There are no more excuses. You cannot make any here. Number 1 overall pick, tons of money, good enough QB, according to everybody. It's time to produce. Bears fans sat through enough this year. Bears fans watched their team become the worst team in the NFL, literally. I said it wouldn't happen. I actually put more faith in this team than the experts did. I put more faith in this team than the experts did. I went out on my edge on a limb and said, no, they wouldn't be the worst, and they were the worst, and I do apologize. There is no more, well, we'll see. Well, there needs to be time. Well, Ryan Poles doesn't have a good enough situation. That was the whole thing before, right? Ryan Poles came here and the Bears started sucking. They spent no money. Oh, well, it's a bad situation. And yeah, it was. Not anymore. He created a good situation, to his credit. So he knows what he's doing, and that's the good thing. We know he's capable of good things for this team, and that's the exciting part. But the scary part is still this. Get it right. Get it right. What are you going to do? How will you direct this team to being a contender? So I encourage all of you who are Bears fans, NFC North fans, NFL fans, when you follow the Bears in 2023, you better be asking the tough questions. I will be. We will be here. We're going to be wondering why everything happened, good or bad. You should be too. Bears fans, to their credit, but also to their dismay, are always so in love with the people that are brought in. Everybody loved Lovie Smith. Everybody loved Mark Trestman. Everybody loved Matt Nagy. Not everybody loved John Fox, to their credit. But everybody loved everybody. Jerry Angelo, Phil Embry, Ryan Pace. My gosh. Ryan Poles. Quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, Cade McNown, Rex Grossman, Brian Greasy, Kyle Orton, Jay Cutler. Everybody loves everybody, but yet nobody produces. We all love everybody. This guy's great. This guy's good. This guy we can defend. Oh, we didn't have this. He didn't have that. There's no more of it now. Results only. I said this about the Bulls a couple of years ago. They had Jim Boylan and that whole disaster of a front office, Garpax, that whole thing. And I said, where are the results? And then they gave Jim Boylan a contract extension. I said, where are the results? We are paying people to be mediocre. We are rewarding mediocrity. And Bears fans for years have been doing the same thing. It's time everybody takes a stand and says, you know what? We're tired of this BS, but also we need to see results. We need to know how good this team is. Cordell Stewart. Yes, Cordell Stewart another. And Cordell Stewart was a good QB, but not when the Bears, not when he came here. His career was over. It's time everybody wakes up and says enough is enough. It's time everybody says there are no more excuses. There's no more BS. There's no more, well, he didn't have this or that, and that's why it failed. No. There's no more excuse for failure. There's no more excuse for mediocrity. There's no more excuse for, well, they tried, but they didn't make it. Again, it's like Jim Boylan, right? He's really working them hard. And the Bulls lost 60 games. No wonder why he was fired. Zach LaVine didn't want anything to do with that. How can you work your players so hard and then have them respond to a 60-loss season, right? Same thing here. The Bears have, to their credit, instilled a culture in this team. This team is ready for next year. They've somehow, some way, again, to their credit, gotten rid of the whole Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace influence that was tearing apart this team and tearing apart the fan base. They've done a good job at getting away from that and being excited and making this team understand what's to come and having everybody buy into an idea that, hey, we're going to tank this year and be better next year. Now it's time to deliver. Now it's time to do it. So I'm issuing a challenge to Ryan Poles and company. And I don't think this is controversial. This isn't a mean challenge or malicious. It's just the truth and the fact of the matter. I'm issuing a challenge. Be 10-7 next year. Make the wild card spot. Make it. You could lose week 1. I don't care. You could lose on Super Wild Card Weekend. That's fine. But make it in. Hey, the Bears in 2020 with 3 different quarterbacks made the playoffs. With Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles and Chase Daniel was still there even. They were 8-8, made the playoffs, and actually had a chance and almost did beat the Saints. They almost did it in 2020. Why can't they do it this year with the number 1 overall pick, Justin Fields, and $120 million in cap space? There's no excuse. They had Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, Mitch Trubisky, an 8-8 team, and they actually almost beat the Saints just a couple of years ago. Now you've got tons of money, a quote-unquote better QB, right? Money to spend, number 1 pick. You cannot justify to me 6 or 7 wins. Right? You cannot justify to me, oh, maybe they'll get a little bit better, but they won't be there yet. No, they should be there. They should be at a 10-win season. They should be contending, if not making, the last wild card spot in the NFC. If 9-8 was enough to make it this year for Seattle, then 9-8 or 10-7 will make it next year. The Bears should be there. The Bears should 100% be there. And I'm sick of just the, for lack of a better term, ball washing of Ryan Poles and of this entire Bears operation. Stop setting your expectations down to the ground. Shoot for the stars. And this isn't even shooting for the stars. Any other GM, any other team with this sort of situation would be aiming for the playoffs, would be aiming for the postseason. Cubs did it in 2015. They did. Tons of money, top draft picks still, because they sucked in 2014. drafted Chris Bryant, signed John Lester, won 97 games. Made it to the NLCS, lost. Okay, fine. Next year, World Series. The Bears should be following the Eagles' path. Eagles, 2021, 9-7, 9-8. Oh, barely make it in. They get bounced by Tampa Bay. Fine, who cares? Next year, well, now they're in the NFC Championship game. This is where the Bears should be going. And 10 wins is not unrealistic or impossible for this Bears team. So next time somebody tells you, I expect 6 or 7 wins, tell them they're full of crap. And tell them that they might be a Ryan Post shill. This Bears team should be good. And when you have this sort of situation, when you have this sort of momentum from fans, from players, from personnel, and then you have the money and the resources to back it up, there is no reason why they should be any worse than at least 8 wins, maybe 8-9 even. I could accept 8-9, but I can't accept 7-10 or anything worse on that front.